Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. Welcome to this week's edition of Mods Worth Noting. So I want to make a comment before I get into things that over the last couple months I've definitely seen a decrease in the amount of mods that show up each week. It used to be for most of the first year that the game has been out that we were looking at page 5 is where I needed to start. I've now been consistently on page 3 or less. This is actually one of the better weeks. The last few weeks, there's only been 2 or 1 page of mods to even look at. So this kind of shows how things start to taper off. We're getting really close in about 5 months, so we're now past the midpoint of the traditional view where the game updates every 3 years. I still very strongly feel the Giants would be better to switch to a subscription model where they continue to enhance the game and add to the game and let modders continue to grow the ecosystem than they do by releasing a new update every 3 years. Because I think it de-incentivizes modders to go ahead and put time in, especially to build complex mods as we start to go down this slope toward the other half of the timeline, which is exactly where we're at and exactly about the point where I've started to see things taper off. Now, the other argument could be that everything that should be created has been created by now, but I think we're going to find a few things, because I've already seen the first one I'm going to talk about, that show that that's not true. So let's get into that. So the first mod here, digital display, is something we did have, and that I have been waiting for something like this since FS19. I love this when we used it in FSN. I'm hoping FSN will go ahead and pick this up eventually and put it in play, but this is digital display, where you can see what is within your storage units. The challenge, however, with this one is I know the other mod that existed in FS19 let you set the target distance it would look out. This one does not appear to do that. It simply looks at the closest target to display and then displays it. So if you delete or add things, what your board is displaying can suddenly change. So as you can see here, there are 3 wall displays, and I believe there are 2 displays you can put on a stand, with this one showing you up to 52 items, but this one showing you 26. Next, Omatana has another production update, which is called Farm Factory, that gives 2 different factories that are simply large buildings. They're not necessarily that new of a design. The challenge here is, however, you need to again determine per your gameplay if this is something you feel fits. It sounds as if everything you want to produce in the game, all productions, are lumped in to this one factory. And then the other piece that skews this is it produces at 3 times the rate that the factories produce right now. Now, the argument of the modder is that because this is a big factory, it can do things faster as opposed to the small farm productions that the game tends to have. So this mod, while interesting to me on one level, also concerns me on another. This is listed as a factory by Dogface, and it allows you to grow coffee. So I like that. I like the fact that it's a new crop, but you have to do it in a greenhouse. So that begs the question of, is there a difficulty with adding new crop into the crops that go on fields? In FS19, we had a lot of crops. Coffee was one of them. This is the first thing I've seen with coffee, but I have seen some other modders add things, but those usually I think are done on maps. So I don't know if there isn't a way that modders in general can just use some sort of a prefab with additional crops and put it in, and that is what's keeping a lot of new crops from showing up in the game. That is one thing I definitely miss from FS19, and returning back to the topic I started the video with, another reason why, once again, continuing to release a new game where modders need to start over means that things either don't get produced again, or get produced differently because we've now changed the dynamic, and things that used to be possible that gamers have come to love suddenly are not. So if you are looking for wreckers to haul your trucks, the TLX Service Pack gives you 3 different options to take a look at. This one's definitely near and dear to my heart by Vertex Float, No Need to Roll. There are a couple things that were added into the game in FS22 that I have just found extremely tedious and not incredibly helpful in rolling and rock picking. The game out of the box allows you to turn rocks on or off with the fieldstone setting, but rolling was not something you could do that with. This mod simply adds in a toggle in that same location to allow you to determine if you want rolling in your game or not. As with any mod like this, however, unfortunately, it tends to only be available for those of you who play on PC. Another gameplay mod, Tip Anywhere, again, just for the PC, by Loki79, another modder who does a lot of useful things like this, is Tip Anywhere, that allows you to tip and shovel loose fill types anywhere on the map, including land that you don't own. The other thing that is really nice here is it allows you to determine specifically what type of jobs, in some cases, you can do in those locations. So if you wanted to customize how things were operating, you could do that. So you can see here, for example, you might be able to plant, but you can't ted, windrow, and mow, for example. So that covers it for this week's edition of Mods Worth Noting. Some pretty big items have come available, so good to see that there's still new ideas that people are working on that haven't been explored yet. I hope to continue to see more of those, but also hope that there's an ultimate change in how this game continues forward that might even open the floodgates more if people know they have an unlimited path for their mods to live on. I'll see you next time.